Hey friend, I want to give a couple of disclaimers before we begin. One, I am sitting in a room that needs a paint job, and I am doing that thing in my head where I'm like, oh no, they're gonna see it, they're gonna judge. And I mean, somebody will, but whoever's here to actually receive what I have to say is not gonna be thinking about that. Secondly, yeah, I'm gonna be looking at my notes. I have like a piece of paper here with some notes. Don't look. And I'm just gonna be referring to it. Last but not least, disclaimer, because I'm holding my mic in my hands, you might hear some movement noises that may or may not be pleasant. I don't really enjoy the sound of it, but I want to hold the mic in my hands, so I'll try to be as still as possible, but please excuse me. Alright, so hi, my name is Ayanda. I am a survivor of emotional neglect, aka for a solid chunk of my life, I felt emotionally alone. I felt emotionally and at times physically abandoned. And I have, over time, learned a lot and healed a lot, and figured some things out that have helped me move on from being so identified with that rejection, with the abandonment, with that feeling of being isolated or different, or alone. So I wanted to share just a couple of things that have really helped me move on. So, the first one being faith. I know that there is so much cynicism and just skepticism and like political, there's like a political backdrop that comes with like, you know, having a critical analysis of colonization and what the implication is when we talk about faith. There are people who experience religious trauma from people who misrepresent the image of God, who say they speak on behalf of God and don't actually take the time to have a relationship with God, and therefore aren't really able to show God's heart to other people. And so it can look like God is contradicting himself, whereas sometimes people misrepresent God and can inadvertently hurt people and cause harm, and say that they're acting on behalf of God, and that can deter people from wanting to explore or understand faith or figure out how they can kind of reclaim that spiritual life. Whether that is family or church or society at large, if someone has misrepresented God to you or faith to you, please, and I'm asking you like from the bottom of my heart, please try to figure out how you can reclaim even just a modicum of that. I do speak from a Christian context, but I do want to share that I didn't necessarily always understand God from a Christian context, but in my pursuit to know God and to be a person who tries to aim towards love and kindness, I never felt disconnected from God. I always knew that there was a force of love that is responsible for animating everything in creation, and that same force is responsible for animating me and loves me and has an intent and focus towards me and speaks to me, whether that's through my intuition or serendipity. Like, wherever your access point is for understanding God, just start from there. You don't have to go from a religious context or try to delve into any, like, literally just even sitting still in your room and being like, I don't know where I belong. I don't know for what purpose I was made. Like, just like, if there is a God, if you're listening, please show yourself to me. I want to have an encounter with you. I don't know what I'm doing. Like, just start talking to God wherever your access point may be. Just start somewhere. I know that can be a hard one, but give it a chance. Give God a chance. Secondly, social connection. Oh my goodness. I genuinely believe that we heal relational harm through connection, through relational healing. Relational harm is only reversed by relational healing. And whether that is a relationship with God, relationship with other people, like new friends that you meet out in the world, relationships with like you can have a pet that you can like connect with, but truly being able to co-regulate and experience a love that is soothing and healing and not triggering is it really does something for the soul. And there is science-backed research talking about nervous system co-regulation, and you can still co-regulate as an adult. Nervous system healing probably is a term that if you're like have learned about personal development or therapy speak, you've heard about it. It's just the cues, like if I wish to simplify it as much as possible, it's just the cues that your body gives when you are under stressed, like to give you like a signal that you're stressed or to give you a signal that you are or can relax. So sympathetic or parasympathetic activation. That is not a simplified version. Those are technical terms, but you can look those up. I can regulate and get into a parasympathetic state that is like rest and digest and like relax and sleep, deep breathing, slow heart rate, just basically calming down, whether that is through just breathing and sitting still and knowing that God is with me, or spending some time like playing with my dog, or giving a hug, or just doing something that feels like contact. That is so healing. And then other forms of connection are bonding with people. A lot of the time, our inner dialogue and our frame of reference for what relationships are formed so early, and formed by the experiences that we have when we are children, when we're young. And so if those early childhood experiences were just full of harm and disregard and neglect, it can frame how we think other people are going to receive us and make us hesitant to connect with other people. But where I have found the most healing is allowing myself to experience new connections and from loving people who have the capacity and the desire to love me. And not everybody does, obviously, but when you do find people who want to love you, it is a tragedy to not be open to that because of your past or because we haven't yet healed our past trauma. Now, it is the responsible thing to do to be aware. You can't just take your trauma and just willy-nilly walk into relationships, because if we're not aware that we have been harmed, we could subject other people to harm who have good intentions for us. So self-awareness is key. If you know that you're not healthy to relate to, it's important to just be tactful in how you navigate, like be willing to take accountability, be willing to hear and understand and empathize with people when they say, hey, like nobody is guaranteed to not cause harm to another person, but us who are survivors of early childhood PTSD, neglect survivors, or people who just come from a lot of adverse early childhood experiences, we tend to not really know how to navigate relationships, and we can kind of lash out sometimes. We can be cold or distant. Our communication habits can fall off. We might struggle with other mental health conditions that just make us a little bit more, or that can just make relating a little bit more difficult. And that's not to say don't have relationships. We all need connection in some form. But having self-awareness and like giving the other person a heads up, like I've taken to like my communication is trash, whether that's just like ADHD, depression, forgetfulness, whatever it is. I know that it can sometimes feel like I'm neglecting people or that I'm like deprioritizing people. Excuse me. But it can sometimes seem like harsh, but literally sometimes I will overthink. I'll get so anxious about like trying to say the right thing in a text, that I will like not send the text because I've overthunk it so much that I'm just like, oh my God, I'll just come back to it later. And then like, oh my God. And then it's like been like 3 days and I'm like, oh, I should really reply to that, but I still can't think of what to say. That is literally a trauma response. That like fear response, it's a trauma response for me at least. And I will take so much time that the other person might think that I'm not interested in replying, or that I don't care. And now I used to just kind of let friendships fizzle from that miscommunication. And now I've taken to just being like, hey, I'm too anxious to reply, or hey, I am overthinking my response, and I'll just like let the other person know what's happening in my internal world, so that they don't have to guess, so that they don't have to, decode my PTSD behavior. Also, if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm like, if you weren't stuck around this far, stick around to the rest of the video and I will give you a free book recommendation. So the third thing I want to mention is psychoeducation. Take the time to learn about trauma. If you have experienced neglect, if you have experienced abandonment, if you have experienced any kind of adverse experience in early childhood, it is important to learn about what trauma does psychologically, what it does physically, what it does emotionally, and also just like how it causes you to act socially, like all the things, like in all the ways that it influences your behavior. It's important to know about it so that, again, that self-awareness piece, because sometimes it can kind of feel like we are like you are the problem, like you are the one who is causing all of these things. Like if you're not aware that actually PTSD or early childhood experiences can affect a person in a certain way. I got little baby, there's a spider that gave birth in my room, and I got these little baby spiders crawling everywhere, and I'm scared of spiders. I don't know about you, but I'm scared of spiders, y'all, so forgive me. I'm usually very empathetic towards insects and like creepy crawlies. I'm like a catch and release type person, but because there's so many of them, I've just been like squishing them. So if you see me, please don't hate me. So I lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah, so learn about what developmental trauma does so that you don't just feel like you're swimming upstream. If you understand what is happening for you internally, and you understand where your actions are stemming from, whether that's like dysregulation, like losing your temper, or like being disengaged, or like You want to understand like polyvagal theory and like all these other things. Like it really helps to feel validated in your struggles, and to also like feel less of like a fundamental, I don't want to say this, but like you're fundamentally messed up. Okay. It's not you, it's trauma. It's not you, it's relational harm. It's not you, it's life. Okay. And if you understand that there is a cause and effect to the symptoms of complex PTSD, you can give yourself a little more grace and just understand that you're on a journey towards healing. So yeah, it can help you with the self-awareness. And we all know, like, we can't change what we refuse to look at. Once you observe something, you immediately actually begin to change it just through observation. We kind of regulate chaos. Sometimes it's the opposite way, where we like lack self-awareness and everything just feels like it's upside down, and we don't have any control of anything because we don't actually know what's wrong with us, and we just feel like fundamentally messed up, which you are not. Okay. Things happened to you in your life that have caused you to act in a certain way, that have impacted or reshaped your biology, your neurology, that need to be addressed with intention and with intention. I was going to say intention and focus, but like same thing. So the other thing, the fourth thing that has really, really helped me has been creativity. Creative expression has saved my life, and I can't say it enough. I cannot say it enough. Creative expression literally has healed my soul. Being able to, for me, I'm a writer, but I also have like a ton of other creative modalities. If you stick around long enough, you're going to see me do something. You're going to be like, what? She does that too? What? That too? Wow. Okay. I'm like a fun bag of creative tricks. It's actually quite weird to observe, but it is what it is. So here's what I'm saying. Creativity helps create distance between the like visceral experience of the pain and the story or the narrative of the pain. The more we are able to transmute and share the narrative without it takes more of the venom out of the visceral sting, out of the grief. When we're able to transmute it into something beautiful, one, we're able to share it with the world, but also we're just able to take it out of like our heart and like let it be something out in the world that is open to interpretation, that can be observed from different perspectives. That alone, there's something so healing. And also there's this narrative, again, like for me, it's not really a fully formed thought because I still don't quite understand how it applies. But I hear a lot of people talk about how creating is an expression of like connection with the creator. Some people say it's an expression of practicing, like, because they say that, as the Bible says, that God created us in his own image. And the first thing that is revealed to us in Genesis is that God created. In the beginning, God created. And so like creativity is an innate way to connect to our creator. And so maybe that's the whole thought. I don't know. In my mind, I'm like, maybe there's like more to it than that, but like that is just my over analytical brain. But you can connect to that stillness, that like creative capacity that God has put in us as reflections of him. And so I'm just like, create, do something with the pain, transmute it, allow it to become something that doesn't just live in your body, that doesn't just live in your heart. Create something with the grief, create something with the anger, create something with the joy, create something with I don't want to say create something with the resentment. I don't know what is created with resentment, but sometimes that's what's within. Like for me, my favorite modality from when I was growing up used to be poetry. I just used to have like this fascination with words and expression and poetry, and I absolutely loved the transformation from like experiencing the grief to like turning it into a story and allowing someone else to witness that grief or share in that grief. There is so much healing that takes place in there. So do with that what you will. The fifth and final thing is the more capacity that you've built inside, go and learn about the world. What happens with trauma oftentimes is that we kind of shut down and our world becomes smaller and smaller and smaller. We kind of try to protect ourselves. We create this kind of barrier between ourselves and the world where we like think of ourselves as different. We feel like we are outsiders, and the world is so vast and so like beautiful, and there's so much information, there's so many people, there's so many different experiences that we become closed off to because of the trauma, and it robs us of life. It robs us of, you know, living a full technicolor, like a wonderful reality that we could do so many things with. And because we're in shutdown, for me, I was in like a freeze response, or like just experiencing major depression for like so much of my life, feeling like I was and like a social outcast, feeling so different and like weird that I just would disconnect myself from people before they had even like done anything to indicate that they didn't want me around. I just assumed. I also just like spent so much of my time just like overwhelmed and like avoiding learning about finances, avoiding, you know, like strengthening my academics, avoiding watching the news, avoiding learning about history, learning about just the different things that make up our society. Like so much of trauma, like so much of, you know, complex PTSD in my like in my experience just felt like it consumed everything. And it was like my whole identity became just encased by rejection and neglect and abandonment and grief and aloneness. And it just, I thought that was all there was, I thought that was all there was to me. And when I learned that I could be more, like that the trauma was like a part of my experience, but it wasn't my whole identity. It wasn't all there is to know. And it didn't, that like one kind of like microcosmic experience of like my early childhood didn't reflect what the rest of my life was going to be. That the relationships of my early childhood don't reflect every single relationship I'm ever going to encounter. And my job is to stay open, is to stay curious, is to stay open to the practical things of life, to the external things, to the degree that my nervous system will allow me. Sometimes it feels like such a stretch. I say this as a person who struggled with depression. Sometimes like just getting out of bed is like a chore. Just going to sleep at night, a chore. I'm like filming this, it's like probably past midnight, and I've had insomnia for like the past couple of days. It's been probably like 4-5 days of me trying to get my sleep back on track. These are still things that I like sometimes actively struggle with. But I've come a long way. Like God has helped me through so many of these things. But my point is, try to open your world up. And the more you open your world up, you'll realize that it's not as scary as it initially feels. And even if those like survival alarm bells go off, like being triggered, you can figure out, you can ask yourself, am I in danger right now? is my body trying to like alert me to something, to a physical danger? Or is it rehearsing the past? Is this like a current threat response, or is it a there was a word for this. I'm trying to think of it. Flashback. Is it an emotional flashback? As in, am I reliving an emotional experience that is in the past, but still carries an emotional charge in this current present moment? And if it is something from the past, how can I ground myself into this present moment and remind myself that I'm not in danger, that I am okay, so that I can soak up whatever is happening in the now? Whether you're trying to learn a new skill, whether you're trying to socialize with new people, you're trying to go somewhere new, how can I regulate myself, remind myself that I'm an autonomous adult, that I am capable, that I am loved and cherished, that I am safe, that I'm okay? How can I reassure myself so I can ground into the present moment and feel okay doing so? Or if it is like a threat response that is signaling you, hey, you need to do something to protect yourself, how can I do precisely that? Because sometimes it works in the opposite way, where we are just so numb, where we don't actually respond to the danger signals that we should be actually alert and sensitive to, or we don't always act in our own best interest. So also pay attention to that. We'll count that as like a sixth piece of like just becoming sensitive to what our intuition is communicating to us, or what the Holy Spirit is trying to tell us. For me, it's like the Holy Spirit whispers to me, and sometimes I'm like, it's my intuition, and I'm like, and no, that's God speaking, for me. Okay, so, but yeah, friend, I hope that as you are healing, as you are just trying to come home to yourself and create a relationship with yourself, and as your world is expanding, that you're being gentle, that you are understanding that your life has been full of so many twists and turns, and all of those things are written into your body. And your body, our biology, we can't rush our healing. The best we can do is to be still, to try our best to try to create space internally for self-reflection, for us to hold the grief, for God to hold the grief, to create space and to give ourselves grace as we are on this journey. It takes time, and it's okay. I want you to give yourself permission. If you were not parented or adequately loved or seen or validated or encouraged, that none of those things were personal failings. We all need those things in order to thrive as people. And I have a feeling that if you're anything like me, you have been comparing yourself and pushing yourself and threatening yourself and judging and criticizing yourself because you're not performing how other people are, or you're not meeting your own expectations. But the way that trauma works is that it disrupts our functioning. It disrupts our capacity to function as adults and be out in the world. And so paying attention to how our past has affected us, but also recognizing that we have a healer. God is not only available to help us with that healing, that he's also put in place therapeutic healing techniques. He's put people in place to help us heal those relational bonds. He's put in place our own mechanism to come home to ourselves, which is the capacity to sit in stillness, whether that's through journaling or spending time in nature or sitting in a bathtub or taking an extra long shower, or just sitting still, literally in whatever thing. You could take a few minutes after this video and just sit still and meet yourself where you are. Allow God to meet you where you are, and just know that you are loved, that this is one of the many, many ways, this video is one of the many, many ways that God is speaking to you, that God is reaching out to you and showing you that you are loved, that you can and you will be okay, that you are coming out of this storm. I love you. I am rooting for you and I cherish you, friend. Keep going. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.